Welcome to this month's episode of The Breeze. Last month, the ladies and I gossiped a bit about the concept of gossip and whether it's good or bad, prevalent or not, and how it affects how we live and our decision making. And today we got kind of an interesting topic as well that I want to get into, and it has to do with, what is your path to being more happy? I go around this complex, this campus, and it always amuses me. Some people have very good miens. Their face is reflecting the fact that they're happy and content, but some people just walk around frowning. And you wonder whether they've got physical ailments or whether they're just not happy. And, what's your plan for happiness? I guess I'd call the topic for today. You guys got any initial thoughts?
Well, mine is going out and intermingling with people where I can, where I feel comfortable, where I can enjoy. One of my weekly things that I like to do is going to the local farmers market. Last Thursday, I was there. I only spent maybe less than an hour, but I had a wonderful day. I got to see some friends there, got to get some goodies. And I always talk to all the vendors and farmers. I have a good relationship with them and find out, what their lives have been like and what they're doing and looking at all the things that are around in abundance. I go on social media and people are talking about the price of chicken wings. and I say there's a shortage, believe it or not. And we've got a local farmer that's got plenty of chicken wings. So we're blessed in a lot of ways, and little things like that make me happy.
Well, I think that's a good way to go about it. And it involves some effort on your part, which is kind of interesting. I want to say something about that later. Margie, what's your basic plan?
Well, I think before I actually retired, I wasn't sure what it would involve, except it would be no work. And that was enough for me. Mm-hmm. I'd look at the happiness factor later. But I think that, we're all different in terms of what we require in terms of social activities and being around people and all. But we have to have a happiness plan at some point. And ideally, before we even retire, to say, what's my life going to look like? How is it going to be for me? How do I get involved? Because up to then, our work was our purpose and our identity. And now we have to rediscover ourselves. So I'm kind of going with the flow. I don't get overcommitted, but there are things that I enjoy and I have the freedom to do that.
Well, I guess that relates back to the initial question for people who are considering coming to Sun City or retiring. What's your attitude? What was or is your attitude about the concept of retirement? Does it involve, people say, I'm going to an over 55 active community. But what does that really mean? I mean, does that mean that they're going to do all new stuff? That they're going to do more of this old stuff? I don't think people think it through, really.
Well, I don't know that it's necessary to have a specific plan. I think flexibility is key. I think that you need to visit the location or look into it to see what kinds of things may pique your interest. Because I think, I'm generalizing, most of us at some point really didn't have a lot of time to even think about fun activities because we were so busy working and building careers and working with families and all the things that come with urban life. And now you're in a totally different environment for many of us. What does it hold for you? What kind of things can you explore? The newness and everything else.
Well, and there are some people who don't like the idea of retiring. They're very happy with what their lifestyle is. And from some of my reading, it was a lot of people and go back to work because they just don't feel like they are producing if they're retired, especially if they don't have a hobby. And I think that's the whole thing. You have to plan ahead and say, what do I want to do? They go back to work not because they need the money, but because they need to have who am I? And that may be the work. And some will never be retired, and that's their happiness. So, You know,
Well,
all the
it-
people here, it would be interesting to see just how many kind of were pulled here by a spouse or by kids, or really truly were ready to take that step.
Well, I think you've hit an important point, or at least alluded to it, and that is, you know, a lot of people think retirement involves a lot of planning for what I'm going to do in the future. How am I going to fill my day? But as it turns out, a lot of the planning for retirement and the road to happiness is, what am I willing to let go of?
That's good.
What am I willing to let go of? In my case, it was 29 white button downs that didn't fit anymore. But, you know, if people are defined by their work, as you alluded to, Margie, then maybe they don't know who they really are. And they have to sit down and say, you know, what can I do without? What can I let go of? So that they have the opportunity to do something else.
That also alludes to it. You have to be open to that. You
Mhm.
know, you're assuming a conscious competence about that, but some people just kind of stumble into it. And I think that's a very valid point, you know, the letting go and opening our hearts and our minds to new things.
Well, I think that's part of the whole retirement gig, and certainly the other thing is the flexibility that you need to have that you don't realize you need to have, because just because you retire and maybe move to a great place like this doesn't mean life doesn't suck as always. You know, life happens as you're making plans for other things, and you know, you're not exempt from that. Let me put it that way. Things happen, and whether they're medical or mental or spiritual, you got to deal with them. So you got to be more flexible.
Mhm. Yeah, and we have to be careful we don't pass judgment on those people that just kind of stay in their houses and stay to themselves. That may be all they're capable of right now. And they may be terribly lonely. I'm not sure we're all skippity doo-dah every day who live here. But I think we need to be aware of that. If we say hi to somebody and we kind of get a grumpy response, well, move
Yeah,
on.
we don't know the backstory. I get that, but on the other hand, I think you find out that some people think, well, now this is the way it's going to be. I am going to be, for lack of a better phrase, catered to by everyone because I'm retired and I'm a seasoned citizen, as Tina would say. And that just doesn't happen. Life doesn't change just because you're in a different status.
Right.
You know, interestingly enough, my husband and I did have a plan when we came down because
you
we
did?
we were 55. So we were saying that, you know, we're going to work for the next 10 years part-time and then enjoy, you know, the environment and do things. Well, that didn't totally work out. And thank goodness, you know, I was flexible enough to rebound because I lost my husband about 4 years ago. And, you know, so I had to make new plans and a new life. And I think I've done very well with that. And I think that people need to be flexible, like you said earlier, about changes that may come in their lives, whether it's
Mhm.
health, whether it's spousal, whether it's that, you know, the heat, whatever it is, you know, you got to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. I think about people who come down here with the expectation that things are going to be a certain way, and if they aren't that exact way that they expect, they do not take the time to adapt or adopt a new attitude or to adjust their expectations.
Mhm.
Causes a lot of stress, and that's one thing that I hope to avoid as I
Exactly. Yeah. I think we all yearn for that when we were under pressure at work. One day.
yeah.
You know, I came across something I like to share. It's 9 types of people that we'll meet in retirement. Want to
Okay.
hear this?
Yeah.
Interesting. The tireless mover, always on the go with a long bucket list, classes, appointments, meetups. To remain healthy, we need active lifestyle. The lost. Not everyone has made a smooth transition. Anxiety, depression, feelings of loss, career identity, financial situation, new relationships, finding things to pass the time. the workhorse. The workhorse wants to work for enjoyment, money, interactions, and a sense of purpose. I can just envision this person out there going rah, rah. The lonely, a period of serenity and fulfillment, or lonely. It affects our physical and mental health, and we all need social contact. The globetrotter, on the go. Survey of 2,000 retirees. Number one was spending time with family. Number two was hobbies, and three was traveling. The reluctant spender. A survey says that half of retirees are afraid to use their savings. They may need it for medical care. They may need it for rising healthcare costs, concern about the rise and the fall of the stock market. So although they might have thought they had a bundle, that bundle remains there for their self-assurance. Then we have the superhero, not wearing a cape, but perhaps a t-shirt that says volunteer. The superhero helps others versus spending on themselves. Then the overly generous. They do not set limits for helping family members. Nearly 40% of empty nesters are still supporting grandchildren or children. The monthly average is $254 per child. Then the last is the never retired. They must work for financial reasons. In AARP survey, half the respondents plan to work beyond 65. 11% expect to work into their 80s or beyond. Wow. So we have quite a mix here, which I guess is just life itself. But each of those, it fits whoever is titled as one of these. And it's kind of maybe the interest here in Sun City. We're not all out of the same paper doll cutter, you know?
Right.
We all
Well,
have different.
that 40% statistic is astounding to me, that these people are roped in or somehow compelled to offer support to children and grandchildren. I can see contributing to some sort of education fund as a Christmas gift, certainly. But to actually feel compelled to do that doesn't compute with me.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a function of the fact that my kids both had full employment since they became adults, and they they have families, and they're out there in the world doing things, and they're not looking to old dad or mom to supplement. So I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah, you are.
Some people aren't so lucky, and I don't know. I'm not one of these globetrotters either, but I will tell you one thing that comes to mind about coming into a new lifestyle is, how do you communicate with people? You're going to be spending more time with your spouse if you're lucky enough to have a spouse or a significant other. And how do you communicate? You haven't communicated well for years because you've both been working and develop different interests, and you come home and too tired to talk or whatever. So how do you devise a new communication mode? And how do you talk to newcomers? Do you just run on about yourself, or do you actually listen to them and try to get to know them? I mean, that's a real challenge. But we went out on the street, as we always do, and talked to some residents and got their opinion on some of these issues, and it was pretty interesting. So let's take a quick look. Today we're at beautiful Lake Somerset, where we're going to ask residents of Sun City whether they're living the lifestyle they've envisioned when they moved here, and how'd they get there? How'd they achieve that? Well, Maddie, are you living the lifestyle you envisioned when you moved here?
Now that COVID is over or winding down, yes, I am.
Excellent. And really, how'd you get that accomplished? How'd you get there?
I'm active in my neighborhood, and I participate in a bunch of clubs, and I'm out all the time in different areas of Sun City walking Sadie.
I love it here, and I am so happy that I made this decision to come here.
Are you living the lifestyle you envisioned when you moved here?
Oh, yes, even more so.
Did you have to attitude adjustment, or how'd you get that done?
No attitude adjustment at all. 35 years in Atlanta, which was a good, a good time that we spent there, but the stress level was incredible. And when we moved here, stress vanished. So it was a very easy adjustment here. And then good neighbors around here in Sun City, the best.
Well, Judy, are you living the lifestyle you envisioned when you first moved here?
It's better than I envisioned. I, I thought I thought for the first 5 years, if I'm dead, I'm in heaven.
Donna, are you living the lifestyle you envisioned when you first moved here?
Absolutely. I've been here 7 years. The first 5, I had my mom who was partially handicapped, but we did a lot of things together, could do a lot of different activities, including here in the garden club. And since she's passed away, I'm just embracing the lifestyle here and enjoying taking part in as many activities as I can.
Well, Fran, are you living the lifestyle you envisioned when you first moved to Sun City?
The answer to that is no, but my husband is living the lifestyle he envisioned because he is a golfer.
Well, you're obviously out here with the garden club. You must be enjoying some of the things to do here.
Oh no, I do. And to me, the garden is one of the most amazing amendments here. I am a gardener, so I did move here anticipating gardening. I thought it was going to be a little bit easier than it has been. I didn't realize that the soil here is solid clay, and I just moved from solid clay. It took me 24 years to make it soil, and now here I am starting all over again.
Well, you didn't think retirement would be easy, did you?
No. They never promised me a rose garden. Maybe a garden if you work hard, but not a rose garden.
Well, thanks so much for your time. Well, as always, there's certainly some interesting answers. And,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And so what do you think about this idea of changing your approach, your communications approach?
Well, I think for me, it's a matter of knowing your neighborhood, first of all. Many people, maybe before in other lives, really didn't know their neighbors. Here, there's an
Right.
opportunity to get to know your neighbors and determine what kind of relationship you want with your neighbors. I'm not one to have people run over and borrow sugar all the time. You know, I'm not that kind of
You don't
open
cook,
door.
do you?
No, I don't.
Well,
I
that
really
fits.
don't. But, you know, I have a couple of neighbors that I communicate with and, you know, for not only for safety, but, you know, when I go out of town or they go out of town. And it's a great relationship, you know, and it's always been my neighbor next door.
Uh-huh.
And the communication is great. You know, we text each other, you know, we're Facebook friends, and I know that's not something that you do. But, you know, it's those kind of things. And with my husband, we tried to find one common thing that we like to do. And one of those things was, and continues to be at that time, wine tasting and taking short trips down to Florida to a resort. We always
Okay.
enjoyed that together. So I think it's defining at least one or two things to stay connected. It's real important.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the other half of communications that I referred to is, you know, you meet people here with all they can do is talk about themselves, their prior lives, their accomplishments, their grandchildren, whatever. And they don't listen to a thing you're saying. You know, you run into people like that all the time. And I think that ultimately leads to a little alienation and perhaps loneliness for those people because we've heard it all before.
Mm.
And so their path to happiness may be a little more difficult unless they adjust their attitude.
But you know what? They may not be aware that they're doing that. And perhaps it's a conversation in a polite way to, you know, to ask the questions. So what have you done since you've been here? You know, those kinds of engaging questions to get them to focus on something different. That's if you want to.
Or you could say something like, if you're the one rattling on, you say, well, enough about me. What do you think about me?
That's a good one, Doug. Well, do you
Yeah.
ever walk around, when you're coming out of a building or something and you see somebody that they just look lonely? Of course, what my first thought is, if they're alone, maybe they lost their spouse, maybe they are separated from grandchildren. They just look lonely. And, sometimes I've done pretty good at acknowledging them. Other times I just kind of am in a hurry and there I go. But, the three of us are involved and we're healthy. We have good access to family and we're very fortunate. And I think probably most people here are, but gosh, there must be a lot of them that really don't even come out, either for health reasons
Mhm.
or insecure in some way, or just sad or depressed. And it's, I with this many people, we've got it all.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but I'm just trying to talk about those people who have the ability to change their lives in a positive way. Some people are the lost. You mentioned the lost. They're hurting people, and there's reasons for it. But the vast majority of people here, I believe, came down here for a new lifestyle, and they have to define what that lifestyle is, and then have the flexibility to realize it's not going to all be roses and stuff, and to deal with it in a positive way.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen. You're going to have medical problems you never dreamed of. You're going to have loss. You're going to have just surly clerks or slow service. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not
This is
entitled
the South. So,
well, you're not entitled. You're not entitled to anything. You need to deal.
and I
comes
want to
at you.
stress that. I want to stress that because people sometimes come down with an expectation, and again, I see it in social media that they're going to have that same pizza. They're going to have those same wedding cookies. They're going to have the same whatever.
Mhm.
Order online and get those things if that's that important to you. But don't belittle what the beauty you have here.
Yeah.
I recently went on a tour of another development near here, and you can't understand what you don't know. Meaning, they were all into the lifestyle there, and I'm going like, oh man, we are so blessed here in Sun City. We've got so much, and they're happy over there with so little. I'm going like,
I know. Well, they've been brainwashed, evidently. So you just need to look around you to determine the value and the beauty of this place for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, and I think what you actually have to end up doing is you have to kind of define who you really are, find out who you really are once you get here. I mean, don't get hooked up and say, hey, I come from, for example, Iowa, and Iowa's the greatest place on earth, and all you can talk about is how great it was. Well, why'd you move?
Yeah.
Be open, as you say, Tina and Margie, be open to someone else and learn to communicate with them in a positive way.
Yeah. Because I think if our identity has always been work, then that's the main thing that we're really set up to have conversation about. And I think a lot of people don't get that. Their identity is what they did for 55 years.
Right.
And you kind of have to figure out a way now not to be that and to be somebody else.
Well, not necessarily somebody else, but a better part of your own self. I'll put it that way.
That's good.
Better
That's
version.
good.
And I think the loss of family members as far as distance, seeing grandkids or children, social media, this last year has just stepped up 100%. And there's so many opportunities, whether it's via getting what my mother and I do is Duo, or, getting pictures sent to you. My mother has a village around her where she lives in LA, and they constantly send me pictures. So I know that she's fine and she's happy, and that makes me happy, knowing that she's cared for.
For those of us who think social media is trash, I say, good for you, Tina. Hopefully, I'm glad you enjoy that, but we're about out of time today. Good conversation, and hopefully next month, maybe we can expand on some of the issues we talked about today. And we hope you all will join us when we again shoot the breeze.